screen. Oh, yeah. Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Great.
Good. How's it going? Have you had a good week so far?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, very good. Now, is this your first time at the co-op?
No, ma'am. I took physical science last year.
Oh, okay, very good. So you're at least somewhat familiar with it. Well, very good. It'll take a little bit to get everybody loaded in. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in this class.
I think I got it. Is there a textbook to this or just a?
There is a textbook, and one of the things that I can do, good morning, Keely. If you don't have, it's the geometry that has the world on it.
Yes, ma'am.
And then, but I also have a digital download that I can send.
I'm thinking of a workbook. That's my bad.
Workbook? No, there's not a workbook.
That's good.
Yeah, just the textbook. How are you doing, Miss Keeley?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm great. Have you had a good week so far?
Yes, ma'am. Very good. How about you?
So far, so good. 8:30. This is my first 8:30 this week, so it's a little early, but we'll get through it. We'll get through these 8:30 classes.
Yes, ma'am.
We'll have to see. We've got several others that'll be joining us. It'll take a little bit to get everybody loaded in, and y'all have to bear with me with my technology. I'm working on it. I think I finally figured out my system, but it kind of goes haywire every once in a while. I think also my Wi-Fi will lag from time to time, but hopefully it'll hang in there. Let's see. Here comes Clara Jane. Good morning, Clara.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good to see you. I'm not real thrilled about this format, but we'll get by. I'll get to see y'all's sweet faces sometime soon, hopefully. Let's see, we've got another Tyler Wilson coming in.
Oh, yeah.
Watch for Tyler. Do you know Tyler Garrett?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good.
I know a few in this class. I know Tyler Wilson, Lucas Mast.
Uh-huh.
I know Clara Jane.
Okay.
I know Keely.
Good. Let's see who else. Yeah, the only others that haven't come in yet are Easton and April, Lucas, and Alec. They'll be coming in just a minute. How are you, Tyler?
Good.
Good to see you. We'll do intros and all that good stuff. Here comes Lucas. Good morning, Lucas. You doing the good morning shimmy? Yeah, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've got 6. We need 2 more. Easton and April. No, 3 more. Easton, April, and no, we got Lucas, Alec. Easton, April, and Alec. Hopefully they'll log in just a second. All right, so has everybody had classes so far already this week?
Yes, ma'am.
So do y'all feel like y'all are back in full swing or struggling a little bit?
Half and half.
Yeah. Hey, I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. It kind of this whole, I don't feel like we had like a beginning and an end to summer. So it's it just kind of seems like it's all kind of run together. And so
Yeah.
anyway.
It feels weird because I haven't done school since like end of April. And it feels
Yeah.
like
Oh yeah. And it's going to be a little different getting back into it. And we're going to talk about how, this is going to be different than even how we ended last school year when we ended up having to go virtually. I think it was a little more, everybody was just kind of scrambling and trying to figure out how to make it work, and just trying to do what we got to do to get by and be finished. But now we're starting off, so we've got to, kind of do things a little bit differently this time, so we don't start off behind. It was different when we were wrapping up the year, and we could kind of go, okay, we could be a little more relaxed with it. But
yeah.
Let's see. We'll have to check in. It's Easton, April, and Alec. And I know that, okay, here comes Alec. There's Alec. Good morning, Alec.
Hello.
Hey, Alec, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. It's so funny after not seeing you guys for so long, and y'all come on and y'all look so much more like grown up, and it's only been a few months since I've seen you guys, or if even that, but y'all just all are looking so much more grown. I guess that means I look older too, huh?
Not really. Also, my computer is updating. That's why I'm not on that.
That's fine. Not a problem, not a problem. We'll spend kind of the beginning part. We are still waiting on April and Easton. But if they don't join on soon, we'll go ahead and get started, and then at least this is recording, so I can send it to them if something happens. Hopefully we'll get them soon. Alrighty. Well, I'll just kind of keep watching. Sorry, I've got the way I've kind of set things up for this is to have my iPad linked where I can display things on the screen and do work on the screen. So I'm logged in 2 different places. So that's why I keep looking to the side, because that's where it shows me who all is in the waiting room waiting to get in. But anyway, so we'll go ahead and get started. So for those of you that have had me before, obviously y'all know that I'm Jennifer Fountain. And for those that you haven't had me, I'm very excited to have you in class this year. I think those that have had me will tell you that usually my class is pretty relaxed. It's the kind of place where I want it to be a place where you feel comfortable and where it's not stressful. I know a lot of times coming into math, we're not always 100% on stuff, and we may be a little nervous and stressed, and math can bring a sense of anxiety, but my goal is to just kind of take us step by step through it, and take it apart and realize that it's not anything that is going to beat us, that we can learn the steps in a process and we can figure it out. So this is my first year, though, to teach geometry. I did do a crash course in geometry this summer with a couple of students that were brave and willing to go ahead and do geometry over the summer. They were trying to go ahead and get it out of the way. So I worked through this, but at a very rapid pace. We did not use this textbook. We used a different one. So there'll be a few things that are a little bit different, and we'll go a bit more in depth than I did this summer. But anyway, so I'm excited to kind of start this journey with you guys on dealing with geometry. A couple of things that we'll go ahead and talk about as far as kind of this format goes. We only have, let's see, I think we've got 8. We're say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 8 students in this class as of now. Obviously, we're missing 2 right now, so hopefully they'll log in soon. But anyway, so we'll have 8 students. So it's not a huge class, but it's not a teeny tiny class. So I feel like it's a real good size. as far as like tuning in and stuff, if you're in a quiet place, I don't, it's up to you whether you've got microphone off or microphone on. If you're like in a quiet place that it's not going to have, be distracting and stuff like that, you're welcome to leave your microphone unmuted, so you can kind of jump in and say something anytime you want to, obviously math related. And so anyway, so I'm totally open to, those of you that have had me, anytime that we're going through something that you're not understanding something, jump in and let me know. The only way that I know that you are having trouble is if you tell me, okay? I do have a tendency to talk a lot, which I guess in this situation, I have to talk a lot. That was the hardest part about classes on Monday, was I just felt like I was sitting there talking at a computer. And even though I see y'all's faces, everybody's sitting there so quietly. And I'm used to a lot of back and forth in the classroom. I'm used to everybody kind of talking and chit-chatting and me getting some kind of feedback. So anyway, so it's a little different. I do have a tendency to maybe talk a little fast sometimes. So if I'm going too fast, tell me to slow down, okay? So anyway, I just want this to hopefully be a good experience. I know it's going to be very different starting off this way. So one of the things that I want you really kind of thinking about and evaluating at the beginning of this year, so pretty much over the next week or two, we'll be kind of settling into what our virtual situation will look like. Then if we're able to go to the classroom a week on and back virtually for a week off, we'll have to kind of see how that goes. We'll have to see what happens with that. But the main thing is kind of right now, I want you really focusing on your workspace, making sure that you're in an area that's going to be conducive to learning, that you are in a place where you've got all your materials and you're ready to learn and stuff like that. Because previously I would just send the videos with lessons, you would watch the video on your own, and then our Zoom time was kind of just a check-in, a chit-chat, answering questions, kind of things like that. This will be very different in the sense that this is actually where I'm delivering instruction. Now, one of the things to mention is that these sessions are recording. And so if you are ever not able to attend and you need me to send you the recording, I am happy to do that. I do plan on, even when we are back in the regular classroom, I will be using this format for any students that may not be able to attend the co-op. So it'll be this exact same situation, except for where you see me will be in the actual classroom. And so if you're ever in a situation where you have to be home for an extended period of time and you're not able to come into the co-op, we'll follow this same type of format. Again, it's the kind of thing where if you're not able to tune in that day, I can send you the video for you to watch. The main thing to mention about that, though, is if you do not tune in live via Zoom, or you're not in the actual classroom, then homework is still your responsibility and homework due dates are still in effect. So we'll kind of talk a little bit through kind of what homework situations are going to look like, and all that good stuff. Again, it's the kind of thing where if I'm going through things too quickly or I'm not making sense, y'all just stop me and ask me questions, okay? So since I mentioned homework, what I'm going to do is we'll go ahead and talk through that a little bit. I emailed out a link previously, and I will email it again today. It's a video that Thomas Wolfe had put together. More than likely you've seen it. More than likely you have already uploaded homework via the Homeschool Life site. So probably I'm talking to experts that could probably teach me more about uploading homework to the homework site. But just in case you do not know, there is a video link that you can watch that shows you how to upload your homework. And so that's how we're going to be posting homework. Since we're not in a situation where I can, take up papers or you can turn them in, I'm going to need you to upload them to the website. Having said that, the documents are going to need to be in PDF format. More than likely, you have already figured out how to convert things to a PDF by now. If not, there are all kinds of apps that you can use. The one that I use is called Tiny Scanner. It is great in the sense that all I do with my phone is I tap the app, I take a picture of the paper, and it automatically turns it into a PDF. Then what I do is I can email that PDF to myself. I can store it in a folder, and then I can upload it to wherever I need it to go. If you need additional help or information about that, please don't hesitate to let me know, and I'll be happy to share or help walk you through something. So homework will need to be posted by class time each day. Okay, so what I'm thinking about doing is, since we are a Wednesday, Thursday class, there may be times that it's a little difficult for you to get everything done by Thursday's class. So I think what I'm going to do, and I need to go in, I'm going to make myself a note of this real quick so I can, I'm going to change all of our homework due dates. Okay, so every week your homework is going to be due on Wednesdays. All right, so then that way, there may be times where you've got some homework to finish up before Thursday's class, and then it may be that you have to finish that after we do Thursday's class, and I'm okay with that. So let's just go ahead and say that Wednesdays are homework due dates. That means that whatever we cover today and tomorrow will be due next Wednesday, okay? That means that you have uploaded it to a PDF, you have put it on the homeschool site, and it has to be loaded to the site before 8:30 next Wednesday. All right, that way what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to not only be grading things as far as accuracy goes, but also giving an effort grade. And that effort grade is 100% based on, did you do all of the homework? Okay, so when I look at it, has it been completed, and was it posted to the website on time? If you have done all your work and it's posted on time, you've got 100% on the effort grade. Okay, then what I'll be doing is, when I pull that, and let me go ahead and also mention this. So when you upload that homework, you're going to see there's actually two places. One will say homework effort and one will say homework accuracy. You only have to upload it to the effort lesson. Okay, if you want to upload it to both of them, have at it. If you only want to upload to one, just upload it to the effort one, and then I can pull it in for the accuracy grade. Okay. Check my email real quick, because it really bothers me that I'm missing a couple of that. Hopefully they'll tune in soon. Okay. So so homework, PDF format, uploaded to the homework website, or to your website, and to the school webpage by 8:30 on Wednesday mornings. Okay, you only have to upload it to the effort tab, and I will pull it in for accuracy stuff. Does that make sense? Is everybody good with that? Okay, I know that we may have some trial and error in the beginning. I will try my best to be a little lenient as we kind of get used to this. Like I said, have any of you not posted homework on the website before? Okay, so Tyler, that may take you, it may be a little more, if you have any trouble, please be sure to let me know. I'm sure Lucas or somebody might be willing to help you out with that if you have any questions, but also the video link is very helpful. I found it very helpful. Then I will resend that this afternoon. Okay, so that kind of covers kind of our expectations when we, when we log in, you guys are, on time to class. Like I said, microphones on, off, just depending on what your situation is. If you're in a quiet place, leave it off. I don't care, so you can jump in. I will be asking questions from time to time, so I'll give you a chance to unmute if I'm asking you a question or if you have something to ask. So we'll just kind of go along as far as etiquette goes and following rules of the classroom. That'll be kind of how we'll handle the microphone situation. Now, I will tell you that from time to time, I can't guarantee what's going to go on in my house. I've told you that I need you to be quiet. My house might not be so much. My dog does have a tendency to bark if somebody's outside, and so there may be times where I have to jump up and either send her upstairs or send her outside. Right now, my entire family is home. more than likely the 8:30 times, they start school next week, and so they will be out of the house hopefully by next week. But if you hear any strange noises, usually it's my children trying to pick on me. When I was trying to make our videos, our welcome videos, I had gotten everything quiet. I was all set up. I start talking. I'm like, hey, I'm Jennifer Fountain, da, da, da. And I hear this sound. And my daughter was hiding on the stairs waiting for me to get ready just to make noises and mess with me. So unfortunately, there may be times that my kids are messing with me, but hopefully not. I've kind of threatened them with their lives, so hopefully they'll behave. But anyway, so I will do the best to keep my environment as quiet as possible. There may, like I said, there may be times where I have to go, hang on just a minute, let me go take care of something. But anyway, we'll get through. All right, so we have discussed our Zoom plans. We've discussed our homework. Now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and kind of scroll through the syllabus a little bit. And this is where I'm going to try to pull in. All right, so let's see. I need to go here. And I'm going to close that out and close that out. And let's see if I want to share my screen, start podcast. All right. So can y'all see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. Okay, so this is the geometry syllabus that I sent out a while back. Let me see if I can get it. Okay, so I sent it out a while back, but we can, I will be resending it today when I send out the link for doing homework and things like that. This is just kind of the basics about our class, our time that we're meeting, you know, Wednesdays and Thursdays. Notice that when we are back at the co-op, our room locations will be different on Wednesdays and Thursdays. On Wednesdays, we'll be in 201, which is my usual room at the top of the stairs, right when you come up and take a right, that first room on the right-hand side. So on Wednesdays, we'll be in that usual room. And then on Thursdays, we're going to be in 403, which is the room that Mr. Perry is usually in. Okay, so on Wednesdays, the regular classroom. On Thursdays, Mr. Perry's room is where we will be. You have my information, you have my email address, you have my cell phone number. One thing that I will mention real quick, as far as if we're on a Zoom and something happens and we get kicked off, I will send out an email with a new link. Fortunately, we have not had the situation or have had a problem to where we have had to shut down a Zoom based on people jumping in. I know that in the very beginning when people are doing distance learning, people were getting in on Zoom calls and sharing inappropriate stuff and things like that. So if that ever were to happen, I would shut it down immediately and I would resend a new link for us to join back in. Also to mention is if you ever have trouble logging in. If you're ever struggling to get in on Zoom, just like my fear is that the two that are not with us yet, I'm hoping that they're just oversleeping and that it's not an issue of them having trouble logging in. But if there was ever a situation where you were having trouble logging in, please use my cell phone number, text me and let me know, hey, I'm coming, I'm having trouble, whatever it is, give me a heads up and let me know so I can try to help you figure it out and try to help you get joined in. I know that it can be super stressful sitting there trying to get logged into a Zoom and nothing will work and you're struggling and you're worried that you're behind and missing something. So you can use my cell phone number to text me and let me know that you're having trouble. Also, use my number if you are working on your homework and you are stuck on something and you are not quite sure what to do and you have looked back in the textbook and you have read through the examples. Maybe you've even asked somebody at home, you know, hey, can you help me figure this out? What am I supposed to do here? And they, you know, they're like, I got nothing. This is geometry and I haven't seen this since I was in high school. You know, that very well could happen. Feel free to take a picture of what you're working on. Text me and say, hey, I'm stuck. Can you help me? You know, depending on the situation, depending on where I am, I will do my best to answer you as quickly as I can. If I can't answer you immediately, I'll try to pop you a message and say, hey, I am not able to do that right now, but as soon as I get to whatever, you know, or if you need to call me, email me, whatever you need to do to kind of let me know that you are stuck on something. Again, if we need to hop on a one-on-one Zoom and work through a problem together, let me know. Okay, so I'm here to help you understand what we're doing. I do not want you in the dark. I do not want you stressed out. I don't want you feeling like you just cannot get this. I want you to do everything you can to get help if you need my help. Okay, so you've got my email address, you've got my cell phone number. Use those if you need them. Okay. Now we will take a look. Required items. We have got obviously our textbook, and one of the things that I will do, as you'll see in just a little bit, I will be I have the textbook loaded on my iPad. So when I am working with you guys, I'm going to be able to display the textbook on the screen. I am happy to email that out to you if you want the digital version of the iPad. I'm of the textbook. I'm going to make myself a note to email that out in the link as well. So if you want to download it and put it on something, it's a whole lot easier to carry around on a screen versus the big textbook. So it's totally up to you how you want to do that. But I found it in digital format. So if you want to download it and use it that way, it's totally fine with me. So textbook. The next thing is the calculator. So with your calculator, the one I put on here is just the TI-30X2S. It is just the most simple standard little calculator. It is one also that is ACT approved. So I always recommend getting comfortable with a calculator because you don't want to go into the ACT and not know how to use your calculator. But if it's one that you've used and you're familiar with, you're not going to get stressed out and freak out when you don't know the functions on the calculator. So that's why I recommend that one, because it's something good that you can use through, you know, Algebra 1, geometry. Now, Algebra 2, you do have to have the big fancy graphing calculator, so I can't help you there. But then you will be able to use it if you are taking the ACT. 3-ring binder with some kind of inside pockets, notebook paper. You do need graph paper if you don't have it just yet. I am happy to email out a graph paper that you can print. And if you don't have just regular graph paper, but some kind of graph paper you will need, pencils, pen, a ruler, a compass, and a protractor. Okay, so the compass and protractor, the ruler, compass, and protractor, those may be things that are kind of hit or miss. Sometimes there's going to be enough of something in the textbook, or if it may have a picture of a protractor that we can use, and so we don't actually have to pull out one. We'll just kind of go with it, but I do just want you to have access to those items in case we do end up needing them. Course requirements, it just says, you know, come to class prepared. Be on time, be prepared. And so notice I have in bold, students will have daily homework assignments that are to be recorded on the math assignment sheet that will be handed out the first day of class. Well, guess what? We are not in the classroom and I can't hand you a piece of paper. I will email these to you. They have already been emailed to you once, but I will email them again this afternoon. So you'll have everything in one concise email. And I'll show you that sheet in just a minute so you'll be able to see it. It says it is the responsibility of the student to write down your daily assignments. So at the end of our class time, we will kind of go through and say, okay, this is what you have for homework. If you want to write it on this assignment sheet that I'm giving you, that I'm providing you, have at it. If you want to write it in your own little notebook, notepad, however you want to keep up with your homework assignments, that's going to be totally up to you. But the main thing is that you will be given your assignments and it's your responsibility to keep up with them. Okay. Then at the bottom, it says, should students miss a class, they're expected to catch up as quickly as possible since we will continue to move on to new lessons. Okay, so if you're not able to tune in, if you're not able to make it to class, whatever the situation is, like I said, we will have the videos available for you to watch and catch up with because you are expected, you know, the next time we have class to be ready for that. I understand that sometimes things happen and it takes a little time to catch up, and we will work with that. The last sentence, or last sentence says, students who miss more than 3 class periods in one grading period will not receive a grade for that grading period per Cornerstone policy. Again, this is something that we can kind of work with. If you're, you know, absent, but you're keeping up with your work and you and I are communicating, and I know that you're keeping up with work, then we don't have a problem. It just has been a problem, especially when we went virtual at the end of last year. I had some students that just didn't do anything. They didn't attend, they didn't watch the videos, they didn't do any of their work. So it's the kind of thing where if students aren't doing their part, then the teacher has trouble doing what they need to do. Okay, and I'm sure that you guys understand that. If you have questions, please let me know. Grading.
Oh, real quick.
Yes.
My computer, I can join now. You just need to let me in.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's one of the things about having my host thing on my iPad. Hang on just a minute. Let me figure out how to do that. Y'all gonna laugh. Sure. Y'all gonna laugh. This is my son's iPad, and so he has put this goofy picture on here. So anytime I go to the main page, I've got to get him to change that because
okay, I'm in.
I'm sure he would die if he knew that that was what you guys are seeing each time. All righty. See if I'm back. There we go. All righty. I wonder how. I wish there was a way. I'm sorry. Since that, I was hoping that the waiting room would pull up for me in case somebody else tried to join in, but hopefully they'll just text me or email me if they can't get in. Okay. Again, those of you that have had me, y'all know I'm very easily distractible, but I will try to get back on task. All right, so grading. You guys obviously know that you have a login and password for the system. If you need that information, if you can't find yours, be sure to check with the main office. They will have your information. I think from what I understand, this is your parents' login information. This is what they registered. It's the site that they registered for your classes, so you should have access to it. But this is where your grades will be kept. We will have quizzes, end of chapter tests, semester exams, homework assignments, and things like that. It says tests and exams will count for 70% of the overall grade. Okay, so 70% of your grade is going to come from tests and exams. My plan is for us to have our chapter tests, but then at the end of each semester, we will have a cumulative exam. Okay, so right before we get out for Christmas, we will have an exam that covers what we did the first part of the year, and then at the end of the year, we'll have an overall exam that covers everything. Do not let that stress you out. It will not be every single thing that we have done. I think you guys know me well enough by now to know that I'm going to give you a study guide. We are thoroughly going to cover what will be on those. It will not be mysterious and ambiguous and you're having to try to figure out what's on it. You'll know. Okay, so don't stress about that. Quizzes, worksheets, and work packets, as well as our homework accuracy grade, will make 20% of your overall grade, and then your homework effort grade will be the remaining 10%. Okay, so just to kind of know that effort grade is 10%, the accuracy of day-to-day work is going to be 20%, and tests will be 70%. One thing to note, students must maintain a 70% average during the first semester in order to return for second semester. So that means that if we're getting toward the end of the first semester and we are a little iffy on our grade, we will be having a conversation well before we leave for Christmas. We'll be talking about, what can we do to help you improve that grade. To be honest with you, this is not an issue very often. I won't say it hasn't been an issue, but it's not an issue very often. But the main thing is hopefully you're well above a 70%, and that's not anything that we have to really stress over. All right, but if you ever any questions, please let me know. Homework and daily assignments, just saying that, hey, you're gonna have homework. It's your responsibility to get them done. And I need you to show all work when you can. I know there are going to be some things that we're doing that you'll just be given an answer and it won't have to be work shown out. But the main thing is if there is computation involved, I do need to see that work. And then that will be, since in this book, previously, like at the Horizons book with pre-algebra and algebra 1, we actually worked in the book. This year with having a textbook, you'll be doing all your work obviously on notebook paper. So when you send in your work, that'll be, it'll be the uploads of your workbook paper on notebook paper or graph paper, depending on what we're doing. All right, the next thing, it says tests will cover 8 to 10 lessons of material, but may be adjusted as needed. This is the kind of thing where it just is based on the chapters that we're covering. So we'll kind of look through that and see, we'll be taking a look at that in just a minute and kind of get an idea of the chapters and the tests and things like that. Late assignments. Cornerstone has a policy that if assignments are late, it is 50% off for the first day that it is late. So that means even if you turned it in complete and all accurate, that you're getting counted off half credit for it being late. And then after 2 days, it's a 0. The main thing with this is, like I said, I know life happens, and sometimes there are situations that arise that keep you from being able to get everything completed. Maybe there's a family emergency, maybe there's something going on. And so in that situation, if you are going to be late turning in work, I just need an email from your parent letting me know they will be turned, this is going to be late, this is what's going on, and this is when it'll be turned in. The main thing is as long as I know that your parent is involved and I know that something is late for a good reason, not just because you forgot to do it, or you just chose not to do it, or you hung out with your friends instead of doing your work or whatever. As long as I know what's going on, I'm not going to count that half off. When I'm going to count half off is when you haven't turned it in, I haven't heard anything from you about why it's late and what your plan is for getting it turned in. Okay, so just a missing assignment, that's when you're going to be losing credit. But if if I have a heads up ahead of time and I know what's going on, I will be a little more lenient with that 50% off. Okay. Absences, again, we're going to be covering a lot of material. It's going to be up to you to get caught up with missed material. Again, I'm always here if you have questions. If you're trying to catch up and you are not understanding something, let me know. We can schedule some extra time. On Wednesdays. So on Wednesdays, I will be at the co-op. We'll have class from 8:30 to 10, 10:10, I think is our total time. And one thing I didn't mention is we will take a break in between our 2 50-minute periods. So like this class goes from 8:30 to 9:25. So is that right? No, 9:20, 8:30 to 9:20. So at 9:20, we will take a 5-minute break. Let you get up, go to the restroom, grab a snack, grab a drink, stretch your legs, whatever you need to do. Just, take a break, because I know that this is a long period to sit in front of a computer, just like it's a long time to sit in the classroom. But we'll take a break. We'll take a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back. But on co-op days that I'm actually in the building, I have the ACT prep class that follows this class. So I will be teaching until 12:05. If you have another class on Wednesdays after this class, but yet you need some help from me, at 12:05 when class gets out, come see me. If you're still in the building, if you need to stick around, come see me. If we need to schedule a time to work together, that is just fine. I will be there on Wednesdays probably getting some work done. So if you need extra help, let me know, and let's use that time if you're able to. The other thing I do want to mention, and I think it's later on in the syllabus, is about the math study hall. I will be having a math study hall on Mondays from, I think it's 9:25 to 10:10. Okay. If you already have a class during that period of time, obviously you can't come. But if you need to end up joining that class, if you have that time open and you do want to start coming to math study hall, that's just a time. It's a quiet work time for you to work on homework, for me to be able to give you one-on-one help if you need it. So just know that is an option. Early dismissal, if there's ever a situation that you're going to need to tune out from Zoom early, or if we're actually in the building and you need to leave early, just let me know ahead of time, or have parents email, especially if we're at the co-op and you've got to leave early. I need an email from parents. Just let me know that you're leaving. Especially when it gets to points where like students are driving and stuff, I just will need to make sure that they're able to learn. Academic integrity. This is just basically saying that you're not going to cheat. I do not expect that to happen, but this is just saying that because you're doing a good bit of your work at home, that I am expecting you to do it on your own. I'm expecting you to actually try to work through it. I know that sometimes it can be a challenge and it can be awful tempting just to Google something. I know that there are all kinds of math apps that you can put a problem in there and it'll show you step by step what to do and it'll give you the answer. That is great and wonderful, but when it comes to actually learning, and that's my goal for you, is to actually learn the material, it doesn't help with that. Again, one of the things I will be kind of talking about a good bit this year is ACT prep. Okay, so that is, like I said, one of the classes that I'm going to be teaching, but as we go through, I'm going to say, hey, this is something that you need to remember for the ACT. And so that way you can kind of know there's going to be a lot of extra information and things like that. But if you haven't actually learned how to do something and then you go to take the ACT, you're not going to know how to do it. Okay, so although looking things up on a math app or, you know, just copying something down is a quick means to an end, it's not necessarily going to be the best thing in the long run for you. So academic integrity is super important. Phones and headphones. So I know that sometimes people will be using their cell phone as a calculator, and I know last year in algebra we did that, where, you know, how you have your phone like this and it's just a regular calculator, but if you turn it sideways, it becomes the scientific calculator. It comes with, or not scientific necessarily, but it becomes a calculator with many more functions. If you're using your cell phone as a calculator, I'm okay with that. The main thing is that phones just don't need to be out during class as far as like texting and messing around. And I had a student one time that he just decided he was going to sit and watch television during class. That's not okay. Headphones, things like that. No headphones in, listening to music while we're doing class. Now, one of the things, and we'll have to kind of play it by ear to see how we'll do during virtual. I don't know if there may be times where I give you some independent work time and we're working on things and then we're going to talk about things, but in the classroom, if there's ever quiet work time, I'm fine with people bringing headphones and listening to music, as long as it's not distracting to neighbors, as long as your neighbor can't hear it, and obviously as long as it's appropriate music. I'm fine with during quiet work time with you listening to music. If it becomes an issue, then we'll discuss it, and you know, we'll have to change that. But for the most part, it wasn't an issue last year, and so I'm totally fine with that. So just know that that's okay, as long as we stay within the guidelines. Parent-teacher relationship. This is just stating that, you know, even though I'm your teacher, that your parent is still in control of your education, and they are ultimately your, like, principal, big teacher. I'm just your little teacher. They're your big teacher, okay? So basically whatever mom and dad says goes, all right? So they trump me. I will be doing the best I can to help you learn the information, but ultimately, at the end of the day, your parents are the ones that are turning in the grades and turning everything into your cover school. So really, what I've put on here is that it's a partnership of us working together. That oh, here it comes. Okay, April says. Hold on just a minute. Okay, so April will be joining in just a minute. Okay, so this is just saying, you know, that we're working in a partnership, and that if we have any issues, that we'll, you know, we'll communicate to help you have the best year possible. And then the last one says, okay, hang on, let me get April in. So I need to go here. No. Zoom. April. Let me get to where I can see. Where? Trying to expand my screen so I can see everybody. How can I move that one? April, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
All righty, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good, good, good. I'm glad you're able to get logged in. What we're doing right now is we're just kind of going through the syllabus. We've just kind of done a brief little intro of, you know, the expectations of class and things like that. So no stress. We're all good. Getting acclimated to how things are going to work this year. All righty. So the only other person is Easton, and I don't know what's going on with him, but hopefully we will figure that out. All right, so we were talking about parent-teacher relationship, and now we're moving on to additional support and tutoring. So basically, this is just saying that there may come a time, possibly, that you are needing extra help, and it goes beyond just you popping in with me and us working on something, and it actually ends up needing to be like a tutoring situation. I've had students that have always, you know, there have been students that have gone to outside tutors or whatever. I'm always available if needed. This is where it mentions here about the math study hall on Mondays. If you have that period open and you can attend, that is totally up to you guys how y'all want to handle that, but just know that there may come a time if you are struggling with something, I'm available to tutor, or, you know, please reach out and get help with tutoring should you feel like you're struggling, okay? All right, and man, I messed this one up too. So I totally, and I will update this when I resend it this afternoon. I have acknowledgement of 2019 to 2020. Obviously that is not right. But anyway, this says, please detach the acknowledgement of class policies below and have your student return it for a 10-point homework grade no longer than Thursday, August 13th, 2020. So this is your first homework assignment. You may have already printed this out and signed it and got it already and you're ready to upload it. That is fantastic. You might not. You might not even have it printed, and that is okay too. What I would like you to do is this evening, print this out and go through it with your parents. Make sure you initial where you'll put your student name, you'll just initial or check off or whatever in the blanks, just saying that you have read those information, that you understand it and all that good stuff. And then you and your parent will both sign it and put your email address, okay? And so that way I know that we've communicated these things. That way if we have any issues through the year, we can say, hey, remember this or whatever, okay? So any questions about these policies or about what we just went over?
I have already sent it to the website. Do I have to do it again?
No. If
Okay.
you've already done it, yay! So if you've already done it, that is fantastic, okay?
Okay.
But yeah, there is a place to upload it. I think it says class policies or something like that. So there's a place to upload it. So let me know if you have questions on that. All righty. So we've got about 5 minutes before, or 4 minutes before we take our little break in just a minute. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and pull up this math lesson sheet. Okay, so what this is this is the sheet that I had intended to have printed and hand out to you. I was going to put it on some heavy cardstock, and I still will when we actually return to the classroom. I will print this out and hand it to you if you want to print it for now and keep a copy for yourself. But this just is basically an outline of each chapter and section and pages and what we'll be going through for each chapter. And it also shows which weeks we are working on this. So you can see that chapter 1, we're going to spend the first 2 weeks going through chapter 1. Okay, so my plan is that by Thursday of next week, we will have covered through 1.7, and we will be getting ready for our first chapter test, okay? As usual, I will give you a study guide. We will talk about it. One of the things I don't think I mentioned, I know it's in there and I forgot to mention it, as far as tests go, for those of you that have not had me, with a test, when I grade your test, the first thing I will do is I will check it, and then I will give it back to you to make corrections. I'm scaling back a little bit to where corrections are not going to be 50% points back, but it'll be 25% points back, okay? So it's the kind of thing, though, where if you make the corrections, then you will have an opportunity to earn some of your points back. But notice how here we've got, it has the chapter and section, the topic, the page numbers, and then week taught. And then you can see here where it says specific assignments and due date, okay? So like today, when we finish up and we've covered 1-1, then you'll go over to the blank where it says specific assignments, and you'll write down your homework is page, you know, whatever numbers, whatever through whatever, and then due date. Remember, we said that all homework will be due on Wednesdays. So the homework that I assigned today will be due next Wednesday, which is all my days are running together. So today is the 12th, so next week will be the 19th, okay? So next Wednesday, the 19th, will be when homework for today and tomorrow will be due, okay? Any questions about that? Okay, so like I said, this is just something that'll kind of help you keep up with, you know, what lesson section, what page, what your homework is, when's it due, all that good stuff. So if you want to go ahead and print it out to have it to use right now, and then I'll give you a heavier copy when we return to the classroom. Again, it's not a requirement. I'm not going to be checking it. It was just kind of an organization tool that I put together to hopefully help you be able to keep up with things. Okay. So one thing I will mention before we take our break is when we come back and we get started, we will be taking notes this year. Those of you that have had me know that I love to do notes. It's going to be a little different because of the format that we're in, but I will identify the information that you need to know. And what I want you to do is kind of start making a consistent list that has just a list of the vocabulary terms that we learn each day. And we're going to be learning other things through geometry called postulates and theorems. So I want you to keep a running list of vocabulary and a running list of postulates and theorems that we're going to be adding to each day. And then that way you know, by the time we end the year, you'll have one whole section that's nothing but vocabulary words. I won't make you write I won't make you write the definitions, but I just want you to have the words. So when I say, hey, this is on the test, you can look back and go, hey, this was from this section. I can go study it, that kind of good stuff. All right, it is 9:20. We're going to take a 5-minute break. We will come back at 9:25 and we will wrap up and we'll get started on our lessons and then be done. Okay, so 5-minute break. And obviously during this time, if you have questions and you need to ask me something, please feel free. It just dawned on me, I totally forgot. Miss Walker had let me know that Easton was going to be out of town this first week. It just, as I was typing a message, I was like, phew. Okay, I feel better about that because I was so worried. Now he'll watch this the whole time and he'll be like, I told her I wasn't going to be there. Sorry, Easton. My mind's a little crazy right now.
So my understanding is that form that you said that needs to be signed, I can print it out and then just turn it in.
Yes. So what you missed was us kind of talking about homework uploads and stuff. You have experience uploading things to the homeschool website, right?
Yes.
Like you put it in a PDF, there's a place to load it. So there'll be a place in the geometry assignments for you to upload that. So you'll just print it out, sign it, initial it, and turn it in and upload it that way.
Okay.
One of the things that I decided was since we're a Wednesday, Thursday class, you will not have homework due on Thursdays. Homework will all be due on Wednesdays because I know that by the time you finish class and get home, you may not have time to get everything done by Thursday morning at 8:30. So we'll just go ahead and make all homework due on the following Wednesday. And it'll all be uploaded through the website, okay? And so that way, by next Wednesday, by 8:30 next Wednesday, I expect everything to be uploaded. You will get an effort grade based on just making sure that everything is turned in on time, okay? So that's what the effort grade is. What else was I gonna tell you?
Real quick, which page are we gonna start on?
Okay, so we are going to start on this page, and it has a, let's see, it's XIX, which is Roman numeral for what, 19? Do I remember my Roman numerals correctly? And it's this page that says who uses mathematics in real life. So it's actually going to be a few pages before the chapter begins. And I just wanted to mention it real quick. I'll give everybody a chance to get there for a minute. I know so often, especially with math, we go through things and go, when am I really ever going to use this again? And you know that if you've had my classes before, you know that we have talked about this numerous times. There are some things that we do that you will never see again. And it's just the process of going through and learning the content is something that helps develop your brain. Okay, so plain and simple, you guys at the age that you're at, your brain is just constantly taking in new information and growing and developing and things like that. So at this point in your growth and development, the way that math is laid out, geometry always comes after Algebra 1 because there are Algebra 1 concepts that we will be using within geometry. So with brain development, having had pre-algebra and then Algebra 1, then you're ready to grasp these new concepts with geometry. Now with Algebra 1, with when we're doing steps in a process and we're solving problems, we've got kind of a linear format that we go through, and we go from this step to this step to this step to this step. And it's a little more concrete. We can see it on the paper. We can see where we started here, and then I moved to here, and I moved to here. With geometry, we're going a bit more abstract. There are going to be things that we describe and we talk about that you have to be able to mentally picture. And so there will be some of those things that we're talking about where it becomes more abstract concepts. So as far as brain development goes, if we tried to teach geometry to a kid that is maybe in 6th grade, their brain is not ready to understand some of these concepts. Okay, so anyway, that's kind of the progression. And one of the things I also want to mention is kind of like, okay, well, real life uses. I know one of the things that one of the students I was working with this summer, we always talk about, oh, geometry, it's so different than algebra, and you either love algebra and hate geometry or love geometry and hate algebra. I'm sure y'all have always heard people talk about, oh, you either like one or hate one or whatever. They're very intertwined, but also we can see. But when I started teaching geometry this summer, I started seeing more everyday application than I did before. And so those were some things I wanted to point out. So over the summer, I I had shoulder surgery. So long story short, I've had issues with my shoulders. I'm sure that y'all would love to blame it on me writing so many notes on the board and erasing and things like that. So anyway, I ended up having shoulder surgery this summer, and I've been going through physical therapy, and I feel like I'm never going to finish with therapy. But one of the things I'm having trouble with is range of motion with my arm. And so when I go, there's just certain motions that I can't use my shoulder with anymore. I can't reach like behind my back. My hands will not go behind my back. And so, but whenever I go, they'll measure my range of motion. And when they're measuring those ranges of motions, they're using angles. Angles are something that we're going to be using. So if you are ever interested in a field of like physical therapy, you're going to actually use geometry every single day, because you're going to be looking at range of motion and you're measuring things using angles and things like that. So seeing this page, I just wanted to kind of mention these are some real life ways that people use math and geometry, EMTs, civil engineers, advertising copywriters, logo designers, geoscientists. But then also there's a whole list here that talks about the different types of careers that end up using geometry. One of the things that I thought was interesting on here, because a lot of times people go, oh, well, I'm not necessarily going to college. I'm going to learn a trade and I'm going to do whatever. I have a niece that's going to be going to cosmetology school. And so she is working on that. And so she's not going to college. She doesn't have to take the ACT. So she's not worried about all that. But when she is learning about cutting hair, one of the things she's going to have to really pay attention to is symmetry. Okay. And that is geometry. So like if you go to get your hair cut, now sometimes I see hairdos that maybe it's real short on one side and long on the other, and maybe they did it on purpose. But you don't want to go in and get your hair cut and have it all messed up because the hairstylist did not know about symmetry and things like that. One of the things on here is cake decorating, thinking about, dealing with circles, dealing with the outside of a cake and decoration and things like that. Those are things that you don't necessarily have to go to college for. You're not necessarily going to be taking the ACT and need to know these formulas and stuff like that, but you have to have the basic concepts. And there are all kinds of careers out there that you may actually end up using some of these skills. So I just wanted to kind of point that out for a minute about the different things that you may end up running across, different careers and things that you may be, and probably at this point you may not have a clue what you want to do, and that is okay. But just some things to kind of look at there. All righty, let's go ahead and move on. The next page is dealing with student help. And this just kind of tells you kind of how your textbook is laid out. You can see where at the beginning of chapter, there's a chapter preview. It's going to give you a concise box of key vocabulary and tell you what pages you can find that vocabulary on, okay? It will kind of give you a skill review, that prepare part. It's going to say, are you ready for this chapter? And what it's doing is it's reviewing some previous skills to say, hey, have you mastered these to be ready to move on? Okay, so usually at the beginning, we're going to kind of do a few of these. You'll notice that there are a lot of problems in the textbook and things like that, and we won't be doing every single problem in the book. I'll just say, hey, do this one and this one, and we'll kind of practice through things. And then there will be some study strategies that they'll be giving you that, some things that you may find helpful as you're going through, things that will help you to master the content more, things that will help you as you prepare to study for a test. Okay, so this just kind of gives us a general layout of what our textbook is going to be like. Our textbook does have a lot of information, and it can be very visually stimulating. It can be very distracting just opening the pages and looking at it, and there is stuff on every single page, all over the page. So I just wanted you to be able to kind of look at it and say and know, okay, if you're trying to focus in on something, this is where to find it. Okay. All right, so we will scoot on. You can see again where the additional pages, it's showing where, there's guided practice, practice and applications. There's places where it says where you can get some homework help, things like that. All right, so now we're going to move on to the basics of geometry and chapter 1. And so the example here they're given is runways, and talking about how air traffic controllers and pilots need ways to consistently understand and efficiently run airstrips to be able to bring in planes and have planes go out. So these are kind of some things. This is just kind of a real life application. If you have ever flown before or ever plan to fly, you will want, you'll want to take heart in knowing that your air traffic controller understands geometry and that they understand the planning and everything like that. All righty, so let's go ahead and move on. This is going to be our textbook, page 2, okay? It says what this chapter is about. Chapter 1 is about the basic elements of geometry. In Chapter 1, you'll learn how to measure segments and angles. You'll learn how to divide a segment into angles or into two equal parts. How to divide a segment or angle into 2 equal parts. And you'll learn about the relationships among special pairs of angles. Okay, so that's kind of what this chapter is going to be about. You can see we've got all kinds of vocabulary listed here. We won't go through it. We'll hit it as we come to it. But let's go ahead and look at the prepare section. Are you ready for the chapter? And it's a skill review. Do these exercises to review key skills that you'll apply in this chapter. So look at the first one. We are subtracting integers. We spent a good bit of time at the beginning of Algebra 1. If you had me for pre-algebra, we worked on it in pre-algebra and then Algebra 1, learning our rules for positive and negative integers. First of all, I want to ask you, what is the thing that I have tried to help you think of? What is the picture in your mind that I want you to have when you hear the word integers? Does anybody remember?
A number line.
Yay, a number line. I have succeeded. Okay, so for those of you that haven't had me before, when you hear the word integers, I want you to picture a number line in your head. Okay, so think about a number line. You know, it's the line with the arrows on the end, and smack dab in the middle is going to be 0. And then on the right-hand side of 0, you're going to have positive whole numbers. And on the left-hand side, you're going to have negative whole numbers, okay? So on the right-hand side, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and that arrow tells me it's going to go on indefinitely. Going to the left-hand side, I've got -1, -2, -3, and that arrow tells me it's going to go on indefinitely. So whenever you hear the word integers, I want you to picture a number line, which will lead you to think of positive and negative whole numbers. Okay, so remember when we talk about whole numbers are numbers that include 0. Okay, positive and negative whole numbers are going to be integers. All right, so let's review this for a minute. If I am going to add 2 numbers that have the same sign, adding 2 numbers with the same sign, and actually here, I can just kind of write it right here, and then that way. Okay, so let's think about if I've got the same sign. Let's say I have a +2, and also y'all are gonna have to forgive me as far as my writing goes, +2 plus +5. When I have the same signs, what do I do with those 2 numbers?
Make them negative?
Nope, I have a +2 plus a +5. When I'm adding with the same signs, I just add them together and keep the sign, right? Same thing if I had a -2 plus a -5. What am I going to do with those?
Keep the sign the same.
Keep the sign the same, so I know I'm going to have a negative answer, and then I add the 2 numbers together. So if I'm adding with the same signs, I'm going to keep the sign and add the numbers together. Okay? Now, let's do a quick review of if I have opposite signs. Let me erase this real quick. Go away. All right. If I have opposite signs, so let's say I have a -2 plus a +5, or a +2 plus a -5. What do I do when I have opposite signs?
Take the sign of the larger number?
Take the sign of the larger. So the first one, I have -2 plus a +5. 5 is my larger number, so I know my answer is going to be positive because I'm going to take the sign of the larger. But now what do I do with those two numbers?
Subtract.
Subtract. So 5 minus 2 is 3. On the next one, my larger sign is negative, and 5 minus 2 is 3. So when I'm adding signs, when I'm adding numbers with opposite signs, keep the sign of the larger and take the difference of the numbers. Okay? Everybody remember that? All right. Now, get rid of those. Go away. Okay. Now, let's say I have -2 minus +5, or if I have a +2 minus a -5. Okay, so one of the things we talked about last year, if you have a firm understanding of subtracting positives and negatives, you do not have to change to addition and use the rules of addition. If subtracting positives and negatives is something that throws you for a loop, it is going to be easier to change to addition. And do you remember, how do we change from addition, from subtraction to addition? Whoop, go away. I'll make a note here. Change from subtraction to addition by adding the opposite. Okay, so we change from subtraction to addition by adding the opposite. So what I mean by that is, instead of saying -2 minus a +5, I can change this to adding the opposite. I can change my subtraction sign to an addition sign and take the opposite of the sign of the next number. So now my new is -2 plus a -5. And now I know the rules for that. We just talked about when I have two numbers with the same sign, I keep the sign and add them together. So I'm using that sign for addition. I mean that the rule for addition. Same thing here. If I want to add the opposite, now I have a +2 plus a +5. Now my signs are the same and I add them together. Okay, so I can change from subtraction to addition by adding the opposite. That means I have to change my sign in the middle, and I have to change the sign of the digit that follows. Okay, does everybody remember that? It's been a little while, but like I said, sometimes some people are good at looking at subtraction and they know the rules and what to do, but if you need to change it to adding the opposite, go for it. Okay, so in looking that, let's go ahead and see subtracting integers. All right, so 17 minus 9. I've got two positive numbers. What is 17 minus 9 going to be?
Eight.
Good, 8. Okay, so what about number 2, 9 minus 17?
-8.
I'm going to have -8. Okay, so in this situation, let me make this a little bit bigger. If I wanted to change this and have 9 plus a -17, I have changed from subtraction to addition, and I had to take the opposite of what the sign was. Okay, so -8. All right, 5 minus a -3.
8.
Okay, +8, because remember, this would be the same as 5 plus a +3 if I were to change to adding the opposite. -3, that's a 3, right? No, -7. -7 minus 2.
negative,
Negative
well,
9.
yeah.
Negative 9, good, because in this situation, I would have negative 7 plus negative 2, okay? I'm changing this to addition, and then I'd have to put my negative with the 2, okay? So I can change it by adding the opposite. That's what I'm saying. If you're ever unsure, just change it to adding the opposite. All right, oh, we got a whole bunch of negatives here. Negative 7 minus a negative 2.
Negative 5.
Okay, so let's take a look at that. If I had negative 7 plus a positive 2, then I end up with a negative 5. Good job. All right, negative 6 minus a negative 5.
Negative 1.
Negative 1. So again, that would become plus a positive, and I would end up with negative 1. Any questions on, I skipped 4 and 8, my bad. Let's go back to number 4. That's the bad part about working on an iPad mini. My screen is so tiny. All right, 3 minus a negative 5 is going to be what?
8.
8, because I would do plus a positive. And negative 5 minus a negative 6.
Negative 11.
Okay, so let's look at this. If I had negative 5 plus a positive 6.
Oh.
That's okay. Hey, that's why I wanted to work through these, because we can see, you know, once we change it, we can see it a little bit more clearly. So now we can see that's going to be a positive 1. Okay, so working with signs. This is something that it's one of those things where it's a little rusty at first, but then we start practicing and getting used to it, and it's going to get a little bit more familiar, and you're going to remember, oh yeah, and it's going to be a little bit easier. Okay, good deal. Any questions on those? Any questions about dealing with our signs? Like I said, it's just going to take a little bit of time. All right.
Last year this was so hard, and then I got used to it, and now I'm like, I forgot it again.
Exactly. Hey, it's one of those things where with math, there's a lot of different things. If you, I don't know if you've ever heard this, but if you don't use it, you lose it. Okay, this is one of those situations. More than likely, you have not been thinking about positive and negative numbers over the summer. More than likely, that has not been on the top of your list of things to think about. So it's natural. It happens. If we're not practicing and we're not thinking about it, we're forgetting those skills. But that's why we're reviewing them. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at this one. Evaluating the sum. What do we have here in these problems? What are these little bitty numbers floating above our numbers called?
Powers of 10.
Okay, we've got our possibly powers of 10, or we've got our exponents, right?
Exponents.
We've got those, so that would be like 2 to the second power plus 4 to the second power. Or if we wanted to call it 2 squared plus 4 squared, whatever it is, what does that mean I need to do?
Add the exponents.
Okay, so in this situation, I'm wanting to evaluate, so I'm wanting to take each things piece by piece. So what is 2 squared? This is the same as saying 2 times 2. What is that going to be?
4.
4 plus, when I do 4 squared, what am I multiplying here?
4 times 4.
Yes, 4 times 4. And what is 4 times 4?
16.
16, good. So now we've ended up with 4 plus 16 equals 20. Okay, so we've got to look at, when we are multiplying by power, when we're dealing with powers of 10, we're dealing with exponents, we've got to remember that this is not 4 times 2. Okay, 4 times 2 is 8. This is 4 times 4. We're multiplying 4 by itself 2 times. Okay, so with exponents, I'm multiplying a number by itself however many times our exponent tells us to. All right, so let's look at the next one. What is 5 squared?
25.
25. So I have 25 plus, now let's take a look at this. Notice I have a negative sign inside parentheses. So what does that mean I'm going to do? if that negative is inside parentheses, when I use this exponent, what am I multiplying by itself 2 times?
-2 by -2.
-2 by -2, yeah. So I've got -2 times -2. And I know that a negative times a negative is a positive. So -2 times -2 is going to give me a positive 4. And 25 plus 4 is?
29.
29. Good deal. All right. Look at the next one, -1 squared. Again, that means I've got -1 times -1, and what is that going to be?
+1.
+1 plus 1 squared again is a +1, and 1 plus 1 is 2. All right, let's look at number 12. -5 squared is going to be what?
+25.
+25, good. Plus, and 0 squared, 0 times 0 is 0, so we end up with 25. Okay. All righty. Now, look at what fun we have here. We've got radicals, okay? So remember, when we're dealing with a radical sign, we also call them square roots, okay? A couple of things to remember. Our sign is actually called the radical. Remember that what I'm looking at, that little place right there, tells me if I'm dealing with a square root, a cubed root, a fourth root, whatever. If there is no number there, it is understood to be a 2, and we're dealing with square roots, okay? So in this situation, what is the first thing I'm going to do underneath this radical sign?
Solve it.
Solve it. Yeah, what is 36 plus 4?
10.
36 plus 4 is going to be,
I was doing the square root of it.
that's okay, 36 plus 4 is going to be 40, right? Now, let's think about this for a minute. This is where I'm going to have to evaluate my radical. So this is where I'm going to break the square root of 40 into prime factors. What is my smallest prime factor of 40?
2.
2. So that means I'm going to have 2 times 20. Now I need to break down 20. What is my smallest prime factor of 20?
2.
2, and that's going to be 2 times 10. Now I've got to break down 10. What is my smallest prime factor of 10?
2.
2, which is going to be 2 times 5. Okay, so now we have 40 written out as prime factors. Okay, so we always want to start with our smallest prime factor, which is 2. If a number is not divisible by 2, then I would start with my next smallest prime factor, which is 3. I always want to start with whatever my smallest prime factor is and just break it down piece by piece. Remember that if I ever am not sure if I have written, the right thing, then I can always go back and multiply it, and 5 times 2 is 10, and 10 times 2 is 20, and 20 times 2 is 40. I can always check it and make sure I've gotten the right thing. Now, the reason we needed to know what this little number here is because this tells us about buddies, okay? If you haven't had me before, I have this. Lucas, are you excited about buddies? If you haven't had me before, you will learn that I've got some really kind of weird, goofy things that I will tell you as ways to remember how to do something. And one of them is simplifying radicals by looking at buddies, okay? So because that number 2 is outside the radical, that means that I need 2 buddies for this guy to be able to come outside, okay? So the radical is the house, and the buddies are my kids, and mama says you cannot go outside unless you have a buddy. And so that's what has happened here. Is my 2s have buddies. So that means when they come outside, it comes out as one group of 2. Okay? But the 2 and the 5 have to stay inside because that other 2 doesn't have a buddy and the other 5 doesn't have a buddy. So they have to stay in the house. Okay? So then I would simplify that as 2 times the square root of 10 would be my solution. Now that is if we were going to leave it as a radical. That was what Horizons had us do. Horizons always had us leave it just as a radical, okay? Now, notice that our directions here say round your answers to 2 decimal places. This is where your calculator is going to come in, okay? So one of the things that you can do in this situation, I've shown you how to break it down to leave it as a radical. Now let's go ahead, and if you've got your calculator handy, go ahead and grab it. If you don't, if you've got your phone and you want to just use that for now, that's fine. Again, this is where we're going to have to turn it sideways, and everybody's is going to be different. My kids say I have a terrible Android phone, and they think it's terrible because I'm not a cool iPhone mom. So I know that different phone systems have different, functions or whatever. But basically, to do the square root of 40, I'm just going to tap my square root sign and then tap in the number 40 and hit equal. Okay, and you can see I gotta get it up. I'm going to end up with a decimal number. Okay, with a whole string of places after the decimal. And so it says round your answer to 2 decimal places. So you can see that I've got 6.3245553203. Okay, I want to go 2 decimal places. So what would I round that answer to?
6.33.
Okay, let's look at that. If
Actually 6.32,
it would be
because the 4 doesn't round.
Because his neighbor is a 4. If it's 4, 3, 2, 1, or 0, I'm going to keep the digit the same. If it's 5 or up, I would round that number up. Okay, so think about your rounding skills. So we would just write that answer as 6.32. Okay, so those are 2 ways that I can evaluate my radicals. I can either simplify it in radical form, or I can just do it as a decimal. I will tell you that's going to be a whole lot more quick and easy. And I know that Lucas is not going to want to go quick and easy. I know that he is going to want to simplify these radicals all the way out. I know he is not going to want to just type it into a calculator and get an answer. Just kidding. Probably we all are going to want to do that. So when it says to round to a place, use your calculator and just round it. I just wanted to show you about simplifying radicals. But so use your calculator, okay? So let's go ahead and look at number 14. We're going to go the easy route here. What is the square root of 1 plus the square root of 49? What am I going to simplify that to? It'll be the square root of what?
Square root of 50.
Okay, square root of 50. Plug it in your calculator. Let's do the square root of 50. Now I'm going to need to round it to 2 decimal places. So does anybody have that answer?
My calculator has been like acting up and giving wrong answers, so I don't even know if this is right or not.
You don't know if it's right or not. That's okay. That's okay. How about if I tell you the answer that you would need to do, and then if you didn't get it and you need help, let me know. You should round it to 7.07. Okay, so the answer that came up is 7.071067, blah, 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 blah. The neighbor for the 7 is a 1, so that means I would have to round it to just 0.07. All righty, let's go ahead and look at number 15. I have 225 plus 100. What is going to be my simplified radical? What's 225 plus 100?
325.
325. So now I'm going to plug it in and do the square root of 325. You should end up with 18.03. On this one, I'm going to round that 2 to a 3 because his neighbor is a 7. So I'll round up to a 3. And then finally, 9 plus 9 is?
81.
Ah, I gotcha. It's 9 plus 9, not 9 times 9.
Yeah, you got it.
9 plus 9 is 18. So now we'll do the square root of 18. Whoop, if I could type. Square root of 18 is going to be 4.24. Now here's the question. If it was 81, what's the square root of 81?
9.
9, good. perfect squares, understanding perfect squares is something that it's just a good thing to learn. It's not always fun to sit there and memorize perfect squares, but it's just like learning your times tables. The more you learn perfect squares, the easier it's going to be. 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 2 is 4, 3 times 3 is 9, 4 times 4 is 16, 5 times 5, 25, 6 times 6, 36, and so on and so forth. If you just go ahead and know perfect squares, that is going to help you as you go throughout math. All right, so that just kind of, we won't always do this as step by step like we did, but I just wanted you to see. So a lot of times it may be that you're, prepping for the chapter is going to be a homework assignment. This is where you're reviewing previous skills, understanding that sometimes you may be rusty on those skills. You may have to go back and think through them, and that is okay. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. So this section 1.1 is about patterns and inductive reasoning. Okay, so it says geometry, like much of mathematics and science, developed when people began recognizing and describing patterns. In this course, you will study many amazing patterns that were discovered by people throughout history and all around the world. You will also learn to recognize and describe patterns of your own. Sometimes patterns allow you to make accurate predictions. So that's kind of a key there, is sometimes we can use patterns to make predictions. And so that's what we're looking at here in example 1. Notice in example 1, we've got 1 block. Okay, then the next one, I have 2 blocks on the bottom, and that 1 block moved up to the top. The next one, I've got 3 blocks on the bottom, and everything else moved up to the top. 4 blocks on the bottom, everything moves up. 5 blocks on the bottom, everything moves up. So if we look at our solution, based on that pattern, we can make a prediction that our next one would have 6 blocks along the bottom and everything would move up. Is everybody good with that? How we went from having 1 on the bottom, 2 on the bottom, 3, 4, 5, we can predict because it has followed that same pattern every single time that across the bottom, now we're gonna have 6, okay? So now look at example 2, it says describing a number pattern. Look at letter A. I have 1, 4, 16, and 64. Look at that for a minute and see if you can figure out what is the pattern here, okay? A lot of times what I do is I start with my first 2 numbers and say, how do I get from 1 to 4? What are the ways I can get from the number 1 to the number 4? Maybe I can, I'm sorry?
Multiply by 4.
Multiply by 4, that's one way. What's another way that I could get from 1 to 4?
Add 3.
Add 3. Okay, so I've come up with 2 different ways that I can get from 1 to 4. Now what I've got to do is I've got to look and say, okay, now I have to get from 4 to 16. Which of those 2 patterns is going to get me from 4 to 16 following the same method?
Multiplication.
Multiply by 4. Because, yeah, 1 plus 3 is 4, but 4 plus 3 is 7. Oh, that doesn't work. But 1 times 4 is 4, and 4 times 4 is 16. What is 16 times 4?
64.
64, so I can see my pattern here, okay? First of all, I have to look at all my possibilities, then I have to go from number to number and see what works. Let's look at letter B. Letter B is a little more challenging. I'm going from -5 to -2. How do I get from -5 to -2? What would I need to go from a larger negative number to a smaller negative number? I know I'm going to be adding a positive, adding 3. So notice in this situation, and actually what I'll do is I'll go ahead and, well, go bigger. There we go. So in this situation, I add 3, okay? So now let's test that. If I add 3 to -2, what am I going to get?
1.
So that would only give me 1, right? So now what I've got to look at is, okay, well, how do I get from -2 to +4? What would I need to do to get from -2 to +4? What would I add?
6.
Okay, I would add 6. How would I get from 4 to 13?
Add 9.
Add 9. What pattern do you see going on here?
Multiples of 3.
Multiples of 3. So the first time I've added 3, the next time I've added 6, then I've added 9. What can I predict that I would add to 13 to get my next number?
12.
I can predict I would need to add 12. And so what is 13 plus 12?
25.
25. Okay, so sometimes it's going to be exactly the same from thing to thing where I've just multiplied by 4, multiplied by 4, multiplied by 4, and I would get my next number. So then again here, if I'm multiplying by 4, 64 times 4, I can predict, if I have 64 times 4, I can predict that my next number will be 256. Okay, so the solution tells us, okay, so notice that in our examples, they're going to be giving us the solution. It breaks it down for us, but I wanted you to think through it. So multiplying by 4, next number is 256. Adding 3, adding 6, adding 9 helps us to see that we can predict that now we're going to add 12 and get 25, okay? So we are using these patterns to be able to make predictions about what we are going to do next. All right, so now it says goal 2 on the next page, using inductive reasoning. Much of the reasoning in geometry consists of 3 stages. Step 1, look for a pattern. Look at several examples, use diagrams and tables to help you discover the pattern. So step 1 is a pattern. Step 2 says make a conjecture. This is not a word that we use in everyday life, okay? So let's talk about what a conjecture is. Use the examples to make a general conjecture. A conjecture is an unproven statement that is based on observations. Discuss the conjecture with others. Modify the conjecture if necessary. One of the words that I use, or that you can use for conjecture, is like make a conclusion. Okay, you're figuring out a conclusion, but it's an unproven conclusion. Okay, so when it talks about unproven, that's why it's saying if you kind of talk through it, you may see errors with that, or you may prove that it's true. Okay, so the conjecture is kind of the what if. It's the maybe this is the right thing. So that's what I'm talking about when I say conjecture. Now, the step 3 is to verify that conjecture. This is where we use our logical reasoning to say that, hey, in every single case, this is a true statement. Okay, so we want to verify the conjecture. So this is the process of inductive reasoning. By looking for a pattern, making a conjecture, and proving the conjecture, this is inductive reasoning. Okay, and like I said, this is the thing that is so different with geometry than we saw in Algebra 1. Algebra 1 was very concrete. If you do this, and you get this, and you get this. In this situation, we had to actually stop and think through a couple of possibilities for looking at the patterns a moment ago. We had to say, hey, am I adding to this? Am I multiplying by this? Does it work every single time? I've got to think through those things. So that's going to be what's very different in geometry, is using inductive reasoning, okay? Deductive reasoning is step by step, check, check, check. Inductive reasoning is having to really think through it, test our conjectures, and then prove them. Any questions about that so far? All right, example 3 is making a conjecture. All right, so look at this. It says complete the conjecture. The sum of the first n odd positive integers is blank. Okay, well, first of all, I've got to address this guy right here. Okay, when I see that italic n, what is it substituting for? Why am I using that variable? Do I know the number of odd positive integers? I don't know. So I'm having to use that variable for an unknown number, okay? So this is showing an unknown number. So it's saying, all right, well, if I don't know how many things I'm adding together, here sum tells me I'm going to add. I know that I'm going to be adding odd positive integers. So let's think about this for a moment. What are odd numbers? 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, so on, so on. And they've got to be positive. So I'm not talking about -1, -3, -7, or -5, -7. I'm talking about positive integers. So I'm talking 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, ... Okay. All right. So what I had to do first was I had to take what I know and break that down. Okay. The sum, I know I'm going to be adding an unknown number of odd positive integers. So now what I've got to do is I've got to make a conjecture. This is where I'm going to be looking, I'm going to be writing it out to write a pattern, to look for a pattern. So notice it says list some specific examples and look for a pattern. So in this situation, had the book not actually done it for us, we would have to really stop and think through this. Okay, we would have to stop and go, oh wait, what do I need to do first? Okay. All right, so they took the first one. They said, okay, what if I have the first odd positive integer? Well, that is 1, okay? The sum of the first 2 positive odd integers. That means I would have 1 plus 3. 1 plus 3 is 4. And then they went ahead and broke it down. They said, so what we'll look at what they did in just a minute. And then the first 3 odd positive integers, I've got 1, 3, 5 is 9. The sum of first 4 odd positive integers, 1, 3, 5, 7. Okay, a lot of times the place I would stop is I would say, hey, this is 1, this is 4, this is, or actually I would end up saying, you know, I've got 1, I've got 4, I've got 9, and I've got 16. And I'd be like, hey, you know what? I don't see a pattern here whatsoever. But notice they had to take it a step further. And they said, hey, 1 is 1 squared. 4 is 2 squared. 9 is 3 squared. 16 is 4 squared. Now I can see a pattern. Okay? So based on this pattern, the sum of the first n odd positive integers is n squared. Okay, so what could you predict would be the next thing? You could predict that if you had 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7 plus 9 equals, what's 1 plus 3?
4.
4. 4 plus 5?
9.
9. 9 plus 7?
16.
16 plus 9? 25. And what would 25 break down to?
5 squared.
5 squared. So do you see that if we added all of the odd positive integers, I'm going to end up going through this pattern to where the next one would be 6 squared. Then I would have 7 squared. Then I'd have 8 squared. Okay? So now it says, to prove that a conjecture is true, you need to prove it true in all cases. Okay? It can't be true sometimes and not true other times. It has to be true in all cases. To prove a conjecture is false, you need to provide a single counter example. And a counter example is just one example that shows that something is false. Okay? So finding a counter example means that you are finding one example of something being false. All right? All right. So let's look at, I think what we will do is we're getting close to our time. It is 10:12. Let's go ahead and stop right there. So I'm going to make a note that we are stopping, we're going to stop at example 4 on page 4. So let's talk about what our homework is. What was the first thing of homework that I told you we had?
The paper to sign.
Sign class policy. So that's homework number 1. So make yourself a note about that. And then the next thing that we will do is let's go ahead and we will have homework, page 6. Let's do pages 6 and 7. And we will do, all right, so here's the thing. In the back of our book, we have answers. And I think it is the odd answers, okay? So the back of your textbook has odd answers. The way that I want you to use these, I will always just assign even answers, okay? My reasoning for that is obviously so you don't just have the answers to copy from, but you can also use the odd numbered problems. If you're having trouble with an even number thing, look at the odd problems as examples. Pull the odd ones, look at the answer in the back, and see if you can figure out what the process is there. Okay, so it's kind of having a little bit of guidance to help you if you get stuck. So we are going to do evens. Pages 6 and 7, 2 through 32 evens. Okay, so we have our signed homework stuff, our policies, and then we're doing pages 6 and 7 evens. So notice all of that is dealing with conjectures. It's going to be looking at patterns, things like that. If you get stuck on anything, let me know. I'll do my best to help you. Probably the hardest one, actually we don't need that number. Okay. All right. So any questions about what your homework is, what the expectations are? Again, if you finish this today and you don't have to deal with it, great. If you're not able to get it finished today, you'll still have after tomorrow's class to get it done, and it will be due next Wednesday, okay? But always, 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 what I will do is we won't go through the homework completely at the next class, but I will start out by saying, does anybody have any homework questions? And then that way, if you're stuck on something and you need help with something, you can let me know, okay? And then what we'll do is the day that the homework is due, that is when we'll actually go over the homework answers because you've already turned it into me. So that'll be when we go over the questions and everything. Okay? All righty. Well, I hope that everyone has been okay today. Hopefully, if you had any kind of anxiety or nerves about class and things like that, hopefully we've put some of those to rest. Again, please let me know if you need anything, if you have any questions, and I hope you have a great rest of the day, and I will see y'all tomorrow morning. All right? All right.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Thank you guys for all y'all's attention. Y'all have done a great job today, paying attention, staying focused. I'm so proud of y'all. I've been so nervous about this format, but y'all did a fantastic job, and I will see y'all in the morning.
One last thing. This will be on an email, won't it?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Will this be on an email?
Yes, I will email out the videos. So if you ever need to go back and rewatch something or whatever, you've got it to go back to. So yeah, this afternoon I will send out the email. I'll send out a review of what we, the documents that we went over, the syllabus and the homework assignments and things like that. Okay. All right. Bye guys. See y'all in the morning.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.